Hello, welcome to Club Call. Me and Cam here taking your calls. It should be interesting. Let's hear what people are talking about. Cam, just very quickly, before we get into any other comments and all that. Everton, so far, what have you made of it since the season finished? Because obviously we had the survival again, which you know. It is what it is. The sequel, yeah, part 2, part 2. And then since then, obviously we've had board members go. We've had self-imposed or self-set deadlines that didn't actually mean anything anyway. And yet we haven't brought any new additions in either. So what have you made of it? But while all that's going on the ground, it's about nothing.
Yeah,
continuing to look good.
It's excellent, isn't it? And that is all that matters. Doesn't matter if we are a championship side in the years to come, as long as we've got a ground. No, it's unsurprising, isn't it? I mean, you always have a period of a couple of weeks after the season when it's a little bit quiet and silly season because of every transfer rumour is just so easy and lazy journalism, and people going, oh, they must be linked with that player because he's been relegated and they barely survived, so it makes sense, etc, etc. The stuff with the board I was actually surprised by, not because I expected them to stay, but it just seemed to sort of come out of nowhere, didn't it? There wasn't really much in the media. Obviously there was rumblings about it, board members, obviously because of all of the protests and the clear sort of urge to get these people out of the football club, and rightly so because of how poorly they've ran this football club for years. But it sort of just come out of nowhere. 2 minutes to 5, it was like, oh yeah, there's an announcement, and they're all sort of going, and it was like, well, but the first thing I looked for in that statement was where Bill Kenwright's name was mentioned, and as soon as I read that it was mentioned that he's still there as of now, and an update will be provided, it was almost like, well, it's a start, but we need a big clear out, because ultimately, and again, whilst Bill Kenwright is there, even if Bill Kenwright doesn't do anything wrong between now and, let's say he stays for 2 years, even if he didn't do anything wrong for 2 years, everything that went wrong will be put on him because he's still there. And the common sort of, the common man between the old board and the new board would be him. So everything that goes wrong would be to his fault. And, it needs changing, and he needs moving out, and we need a completely new direction and a completely new board. And hopefully we get that with potential investment, but other than that, it's just been your typical what you'd expect first couple of weeks after the season, hasn't it? It'd be lovely to be sitting here going, we've signed this player, we've signed that player, like Arsenal are doing, like other clubs are doing, but Everton don't run like that. It's not about a football club. We were the only club in the country in the Premier League to not sign a single player in January when we were in a relegation battle and we needed players. So did any of us expect us to have 2 names in on the through the door before the first player we signed in last season was Tarkowski on the 1st of July?
But I was just going to say that, because even though he did come in, and if you remember, Everton didn't actually announce it on the 1st of July. They left it for a few days until someone went, he's got a training kit on. Yeah, we better announce that we've signed him. But have you found it a little bit surprising? Well, I think you've just answered it, but in terms of when there's not even any serious thing with Tarkowski last season, about around this time, we kind of knew that it was us and Aston Villa who wanted him, and he'd chosen Everton. But then it did go quiet, obviously, until he was done. But there isn't even that at the minute, is there? There's just a lot of links.
No, not really. I'm not surprised, because again, the running of this football club was absolutely horrendous when we actually had human beings running this football club. We now don't have people running the football club. We've got one board member. We've got one board member, and then we've probably got, I would imagine, a load of people underneath who are sort of looking, thinking, well, I haven't got a boss, so what? Where's the direction? Where's the what am I meant to do? Where am I meant to go?
Do you reckon it's like wet play?
Probably, yeah.
At the moment, where you should get shoved in the classroom and no one had really been.
No, that's it.
Everything's just going on.
It's like when you used to go, when you had PE in school and you go and play footy, and it was just like, sort yourselves into teams. Just go and do stuff for an hour. That's what it is, but there's no direction, and there won't be that until there's new board members in and people have actually got jobs to do, and the president said, you do this, we need that. Obviously, it'll speed up in the next couple of weeks when Thelwell's back, and Dyche coming off holiday. We know Dyche has been in Portugal for the last 2 weeks. It's been all over social media. His friends have been posting videos. So, yeah, I'm not I wasn't expecting Everton to have had a deal done. For us to have announced a player now, it would have meant that deal would have been in place towards the back end of last season, or at least there would have been heavy talks about a deal being in place towards the back end of last season. And we all knew, at the end of last season, that there was no talks in place for anyone because we were so focused on staying in the Premier League. So it doesn't surprise me. Would it be nice to have a new player in? You know what it'd be? You know what it'd be lovely? It'd be lovely to have a new player in on the day we announce the kit, so that they can market it as go down to the shop and get this new fancy new winger or striker on the back of your new kit. It won't happen. We probably won't even announce a kit. But but yeah, it's just I'm just used to it now. I was speaking before about the end of last season and how I felt, and I remember feeling an immense amount of relief after Palace and sort of turned into like, oh my God, this is amazing, we've won the game. It's like a fairy tale story. After Bournemouth, after that 5 minutes of relief after the final whistle, I was fuming. I was fuming all night just because of the mere thought that I remember we were in America and we all sat there every night, having a laugh on the ale going, well, it can't be worse than last season. And it was. We were 40 minutes away from going down. It was somehow worse than last season. So yeah, nothing surprises me with this football club. Hopefully we start to see some movement, but until we do.
You're all right, though. I mean, we do this every day and we're looking and constantly reading stuff, speaking to people who are working within the game and all of that, trying to get little bits, and you're looking for any positive you can get. But there is always this like downtime between where people are away and people at the football club will be away, and people that, like you just rightly said, Sean Dyche's being on holiday and rightly so. He's had the season with the working and the pressure. They need a break. It all happens. And the other thing on top of that as well is Everton, and you did say, because of Everton's position, they couldn't get stuff in place quickly.
No,
because we know what division we were in.
We didn't know who the board members would be. We didn't know how much money we had to spend. We didn't know where we would be. So it's hard to get a player in place, isn't it? With 2 weeks to go before the window, and you don't know if you're going to be in the... What if we'd have done all of that work for that deal, gone down, and they'd gone, not coming, lad. Not coming. So, not that I'm saying that Everton did the right thing, because you should always be planning ahead. And
I'm sure they have spoke to people, but you're right, it does change. And you will have, obviously you'd have that scenario planning, don't you, where it's, if we stay up, we can spend this, if we go down, we can spend that. Exactly. And we can speak to players, but we'll just have to wait and see. But we
don't plan though, do they?
It's clear, well, it doesn't appear to, It's clear, isn't it, that as we move forward, we need attack and play. That's got to be the big focus of the transfer window this summer, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Attack and play. Because defensively, it wasn't great, but we weren't too bad. If you look at the numbers, Everton weren't too bad at all. I think it was like halfway up in the Premier League. But the attacking third was absolutely diabolical. Only one team scored less goals than us, and that is absolutely atrocious.
And we still managed to stay up. No, I suppose I don't know whether it is worrying, because Everton are at that point now where everything is worrying, so nothing is worrying, because it's almost just sort of like, well, I'm worried about everything, so now I'm not worried. Someone's literally ringing in me.
Someone's literally phone.
Attacking players is obviously the priority, and should be the priority, and should have been the priority in January and last summer as well, and we failed in that area. So, striker, goal scoring winger, creative midfielder. I get the defence is probably the most solid position. I'd like us to get a left back, personally. I think it wouldn't harm us getting a right back as well, given the situation there. But no, I don't. If Everton were to sign a right back tomorrow, well, you might get a little buzz of, oh yeah, new player, etc. But we all want a striker. We all want attacking players. We all want creative. We all want somebody that we can look at and go, okay, that might be an extra 10 goals next season, and that might mean Everton aren't in a relegation battle come the end of the season. I did sit here famously last year and said that Dwight McNeil would be our top goal scorer, and I was laughed out the room.
You also said he'd get 10 goals.
Well, he got 9 if you include the friendlies.
Don't include
He got 9 if you include the friendlies.
Include Kia.
I didn't say Premier League goals. I said Dwight McNeil would put the ball in the net 10 times for Everton. He scored 2 against Kiev, and he scored a penalty in Australia. As far as I'm concerned, Dwight McNeil put the ball in the net 10 times. But that was an anomaly of a season for Dwight McNeil. He's never done that. He might never do that again. He's never done that. So we relied on a player who, at the start of the season, if I know I said that he'll get 10 goals, but realistically, if we'd have all sat down, we'd have probably gone, it's unlikely he finishes top goal scorer.
Yeah.
So, and without them goals, we wouldn't be here. So we can't keep riding the luck, and we can't keep riding we'll be all right. We just got to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Massive changes needs to be made, and there's a start, but it's by no means finished in terms of changes for me.
Definitely. Hit the like button and subscribe as well if you can. Thank you very much. Celta Vigo apparently working on a deal for Andre Gomez. There'll be more on that tomorrow. I think I've just read something. It's progressing according to reports.
Reunited with his former manager.
Yeah, I don't know whether
care.
Working on that. No, what I mean is working on that. What to just pay his wages because
you won't get.
Can't
imagine you getting any info. I'd love to know what transfer market rate that and say go. Get that up, man.
£1 million.
No, you won't. If you get more than 4 million quid, 5 million quid, you'd be happy. If you even got anywhere near that, I just again, he will be added to a long list of players that Everton spent a lot of money on and left for nothing. But ultimately, is he going to have a part to play next season? No, he isn't. He's not going to get anywhere near that team. So move him on. Yeah, move him on, and just realistically, if we say no to Celta Vigo because we want a price, is anybody else going to give us? Did well in France, so maybe you get a French team who give us a couple of million quid, but then you use that as leverage to Celta Vigo, don't you? Hang on, it's just had a good season in France, so we want at least something.
And you'd think that they'd come in if it is genuine between Celta Vigo and Everton, wouldn't you?
Yeah. There's just so many of them, isn't there, that I just have no problem seeing the back of. Like, no problem for, Pickford one for 45 million worries me. I'll be honest, because I think we should be asking for a lot more than that, especially in a market where people are asking for hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds for players, but it's the majority of the rest of the squad.
There's only really Pickford and Onana that you're going to get money for now.
I'd be worried about Pickford leaving because I think for 2 seasons he's made clear saves in big games that have kept us in the Premier League. I still stick with the point, if he doesn't save that James Maddison penalty, Everton get relegated.
Well, they do, because
they win the game 3-1. And
there's the 2 points.
There's the 2 points, yeah. So, but Onana, again, I have no issue with it. I think, and this whole thing of, he's one for the future, we need to build. We're not, this is my problem with signing Nonto from Leeds. 5 years' time, he might be absolutely world class. We don't need him in 5 years' time. We need him now, and we haven't got £20 million to spend on somebody that might be good in 5 years' time. Because if he comes in and he's not quite good now, and we all say, but he's potential, and then we go down, he's just going to leave anyway and go to someone else. Yeah. So what's the point? Onana's the same. He had an all right season for £60 million. I'd say thank you very much, best of luck. We need that money now to improve in other areas. Realistically, and I know this is, given Everton's recruitment in the past, this is maybe a harder question than it seems, but could £60 million worth of new players have more of an impact than what Amadou Onana did on Everton last season? Yes. Indefinitely. So
good player, but
good
like
player.
You said, we need someone that's going to make a huge difference now, don't we? Richard Campbell says, I'm from Londonderry, and I've just signed up for Premier. Keep up the great work, lads. Cheers, Richard. Thanks very much, mate. Where are we? John Winstanley says the stadium doesn't need Mashiri's input in a practical way, as Lango Rourke will be carrying out the architect's plans. We need to have at least one board member so the 3 stooges can stand down. And surprise, surprise, Bill can't leave because he's our last one. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what. You can only read what's being put out there, and what's being put out there right now is Mashiri wants Bill Kenwright to stay. Why do you think he wants him to stay? Is it simply because he's a shield for Farhad Mashiri, or is it
he's a riot shield for criticism? And as I've just mentioned, that I am as big a believer as anybody else that Bill Kenwright's time at Everton is done now, and he's gotten away with a lot for far too long. But the reality is if Bill was to stay, and let's say we went to work with Bill Kenwright every day for 2 years, and he did nothing wrong, had no impact on anything, but things still went wrong, he would get the blame, and that's just a matter of fact, because he's still there, and whilst he's there, the thought is, well, it must be down to him, because it's been down to him before, so it must be down to him. So I think there's that, and I also think that Farhad Mashiri is just absolutely clueless. He's clueless about football, he's clearly clueless about Everton, he's got no real interest in Everton, regardless of what he says. He's, again, how many games has he attended? How much effort has he actually put in with fans? Unless he's been massively pushed to do so. And whereas I think he sees Bill Kenwright as sort of the middleman. And if he loses that, then who acts as that middleman, and maybe a new board member comes in, a new chairman, and they push Mashiri a bit more. You can't make that decision. You can't say that. You're not making that decision. We make that decision, and he doesn't like that. He doesn't like being told what to do. Whereas maybe Bill's a bit of a soft touch, a bit of an easy touch on him. But I do think the criticism thing is a big part of it. But he could go, couldn't he? In terms of needing one director, you could just promote somebody to be a director for the time being, and then Bill could go. So, there's a lot of stuff out there on, what Bill wants to do, what Bill doesn't want to do, etc., etc. But it does not surprise me in the slightest if Mashiri wants him to stay, because, he, as I said, he ultimately he's the prod, isn't he? And Mashiri stands behind and goes, I've given you loads of money. Look at the statement from the board. The statement from the board was sickening last week, absolutely sickening. It's all about, look at the stadium, there was a part of the statement which said,
at all the stuff we've done good.
There was a part of the statement that said the largest site in the UK. But who are we now? Is that what we are now? Yeah, we've gone down, but see that big site there? That's the largest in the UK. No site bigger than that in the UK.
We were the best charity for a while.
Exactly, and that's all it is. No, look at what we've done badly. It's, well, look at this. And the stadium is great and it's boss. I'll be honest, I drive past it every day on the way to work or on the way to my girlfriends or whatever. I couldn't care less. I could not care less.
It looks great.
It looks great, but I couldn't care less.
But yeah, because the other stuff, it's taking it away from the stuff that we need, which is the team. I keep saying it every day. It's great. I don't want to. I mean, I would doing this job, of course. I've got an interest in what's going on elsewhere, finances and everything else. Of course we do. We do it because it's, we are an Everton channel, so we have to report on everything. But my key interest, my big interest, the thing that gets me excited the most about everything with that will always be the football side. It's the game. Yeah. It's playing the game, it's the tactics, it's the players, it's what the coaching style is, it's getting the fans involved in that. That's what we're here for. We're not here to go, you know what though, Cam? We're crap, but what a board we've got, mate. Seeing the way they sit round that table and make decisions, world class. It's just about us sitting there going, what a player, or what a goal that was, or
what a win.
We'll win there, or can we win this, can we win that?
I seen a thing the other day of a Man City fan who was probably around about my age, who'd been to 60-odd games this season, seen his team lose 6 times. In 60-odd games and win everything. Home and away. 68 times, I think it was, they lost 6 times. I've been all around the world to watch Everton. I've seen us win once. Once. Including pre-season friendlies, including, qualifying games in Europe against teams that we should be wiping the floor with, never won. It's just,
That's rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. Idi Amin says greetings from Uganda, so greetings. He's there.
My swim, bro.
Yeah, he is your swim. Brad Hancock says, I think Dembele will come in July the 1st.
I think Dembele will go to West Ham.
Do you?
Yeah, I can just see it.
I think that as well.
I can just see
that. There or Brentford, I think.
No, I think Brentford are a bit cleverer.
Yeah.
I agree, but get him on a free, and obviously Ivan Toney's out.
It's more likely that he goes to West Ham and we pay 30 million for Mikel Antonio.
But I can also see,
to be honest, innit? It is though, innit? It really is. That's the more likely option.
It wouldn't be the
get shanked out
the most unlikely thing, put it that way. Yeah. Ryan Lomax says, fan of Arsey, but I've made the last 8. It's right, Ryan. Good luck. Right, lad. Good luck with that, mate. The Blues said need a left back more than a right back.
Yeah, I would agree.
What do you think about? Well, 2 things really, just with the defence and then moving forward from that. The Connor Cody thing. What did you make of that? Were you a bit disappointed to see him go, or do you fully understand it and it's not really? You're not really bothered.
I wasn't fussed either way, to be honest with you. I think realistically, obviously, we've lost Yerry Mina, so we need another centre half. By a matter of fact, because Ben Godfrey's unlikely to play every week or be good enough to play every week, and Michael Keane, Mason Holgate are just non-options for me. So you need somebody.
What about Brantwaite?
Yeah, that and there's the decision, isn't it? The decision is, for me, there's two options with Jared Branthwaite. He plays every week or he gets sold. But absolutely pointless with him sitting on the bench.
No.
Absolutely pointless with him going back out on loan.
Yeah.
So if Dyche looks at him in pre-season and goes, sell him. Make the money now while his stock is high.
While people want him.
Or play him every week. And if he does play him every week, then maybe Ben Godfrey becomes the third. Michael Keane becomes the fourth. Maybe it's not too bad. I think it was more the price tag. Wasn't there a rumour that he might end up going for less than 4.5 million quid? Well,
he's got a year and 9 days left on his Wolves contract. So if he just sits it out for a couple of weeks, then he's less than a year to go. Everton may well be able to go back to the table and go to Wolves. Well, we'll give you 2 million for him. It's better than him sitting.
He's dying to come in, by all accounts.
Yeah. I've seen it being linked with Leicester today. But I think if you give Conor Cody the opportunity to join Everton,
because it doesn't mean.
I think he'd be absolutely. He
keeps his family where he is.
Exactly.
Happy, relatively.
Kids are at the academy. And
every time he's at Goodison, he's waving to his uncle who sits by me in the park end. So it just makes. And maybe that's been part of the conversation. Maybe the conversation's been sit tight. We're going to see this out for a couple of weeks and we're open to drop the price.
Obviously, if he gets a deal, if he gets an offer that he can't refuse, he'll do that. But yeah. And then on the other thing then is what's your take on Mykolenko? Because I've seen there's conflicting views on Mykolenko. There's people who think he's great and there's people who think he's awful. And I personally, I'm in the middle. I think he's a decent defensive left back. He's not great. He's not awful. Do you know what I mean?
I think he's bang average. I think he's bang average, but unfortunately, bang average will lose your games, positional wise, and he offers nothing going forward. We looked better with Dwight McNeil at left back for the last few games of the season, but that obviously isn't going to happen all season. In an ideal world, I would like Everton to go out and sign a left back this summer.
Starting left back,
yeah. In an ideal world, if we had loads of money to spend, we weren't capped by FFP and whatever else, we weren't in a position where we were so desperate to sign strikers and forward players. If you could say to me, right, Cam, Everton finished mid-season last season, you've got 80 million, 100 million to spend, you've already got a decent striker, but you might want another one, I'd say left back's probably up there to sign. But given the position that we're in, I think the money you would spend on a left back better than Mykolenko could go with better in other areas. But I don't think he's great. I don't think he's very good, but I don't think he's the biggest issue in the team at the moment.
Bill, you have confidence as a player.
If you're talking to your mic.
It's on, yeah.
I know, but look where you are.
I've got the gain up.
Okay.
I think the average left back now is someone like Anthony Robinson, bang average, but he gets you up the pitch, okay defender. And I think Mykolenko's just an okay defender, but even then he looks nervous.
Mykolenko also benefits hugely from Dwight McNeil's defensive work rate. Dwight McNeil's defensive work rate is massive to Mykolenko because he's always getting back, he's helping out. Can't remember which game it was last season, but there was a game where McNeil effectively played left back as well as Mykolenko in the first half. He was just constant.
When you're watching Damari Gray on the left with Mykolenko behind him, it's poor defense, it's rubbish defensively, and then when Damari Gray's got the ball on the left, he's completely on his own, no overlap.
I think we do need an attacking left back. Absolutely, we're getting nothing from Mykolenko going forward. I think that's the area we've got to develop. We need Patterson to stay fit and to really take that right back position from Seamus, so that Seamus is just a sub. I think it's what Coleman wants as well, to be fair. And that Patterson has to improve his attacking. They've seen him do it. He's done it at international level. He's got to do it for us. And we need the same on the other side. They become huge, don't they? Your fullbacks are huge in the game. And we're not getting up the pitch quick enough with either of them. And that then creates more space for, say, if it is Dwight McNeil playing on the left, if you've got a left back who's bombing on beyond him, he can either slide it inside the fullback to you, or it creates a little bit of space for him to get it out of his feet. So, yeah, it's an interesting on the left back thing. You're absolutely right. There's other areas that need the attention first, but then there are a few free transfers knocking around in Europe.
That's where we have to be clever, don't we? If you're not spending any money and they're coming in for low wages, then it'd be ridiculous to not try and approach that.
Yeah.
But
absolutely,
can we do two things at once?
I just remind people that this is the club call, so everybody wants a.
Yeah, if you're a Premier member,
is on Premier.
Get it done.
Otherwise, we're just going to end up talking about food or
It's not bad, whatever.
something that...
They got the cool earrings out, and no one's called.
Dad John says, anyone see how well Mina played against Brazil? Jeez, he's got himself fit. He owed us a season. With the wages he had us off, it's just a joke now. Well, he was fit. He was 5th in January. Sean Dyche never played.
Do you think he'd signed a new deal if he was offered one?
Yeah.
I do. For me, with Yerry Mina, I think it would have been ridiculous to offer him a new deal because of the wages he was on and his injury record. But he scored arguably our most important goal of the season against Wolves away. And he was unbelievable, and I mean colossal, against Bournemouth in the biggest game of the season.
Yeah. The block he made in the first half from Solanke
was world class.
The goal.
And in those 3-4 games that were before that, he was unbelievable in every one of them as well. And this was a team that conceded 20 goals in 10 games and looked gone. I remember after Newcastle thinking, we are gone.
We were all over the place.
And he come in and he solidified everything. And Tarkowski was confident with him, and Pickford's confident with him. And again, he played a massive part in keeping Everton in the Premier League, as he said he would. And, ultimately, I think it's shake hand and thanks for your service. And I think he'd be welcome back at Goodison at any point in the future. What are you laughing at?
Shake hand and stuff.
Well, you do, don't you? A new contract would have been ridiculous because of his wages and his injury record. But he ultimately, if you'd have said to us, well, if you'd said 5 years ago, he's going to keep you in the Premier League, we'd have gone, what are you talking about? We'll never be in a relegation battle. But given, if you'd have said to us with 10 games to go, Mina gets his chance now and he's going to really take it, and he will make sure you are a Premier League team next season, but he leaves in the summer, we'd have all gone, yeah, take that all day. So...
If you're a Premier member, the link it's literally under the title. So just click that link and we go from there. That's how easy it is. Not a phone number, it's the link which is there for you.
People are ringing us on WhatsApp. It's not a number. Click the link.
There we. Kevin Murphy says, I love Cam's passion. Sounds like he's had the Duracell in him and doesn't take a breath.
Just the Red Bull.
It is the Red Bull, yeah. Absolutely. Jacob Powell says, Baz, career-wise, Seamus Coleman or Leighton Baines?
In what sense?
I know, in what sense? As in, who's been better for Everton? Do you mean? Just give us a little bit of context with that, Jacob.
Leighton Baines was a better player.
Yeah.
Phenomenal in every aspect. Yeah. Brilliant professional.
Seamus is
player,
great.
Consistent for many years. And Seamus is exactly the same. Great professional, consistent over many years.
Yeah, I love Seamus, don't get me wrong, but Leighton Baines, technically, Seamus Coleman was very good technically at one point in terms of striking the ball, but Leighton Baines technically was just...
No,
both
real footballer.
Not many footballers who have played in the Premier League in the history that could score the free kick he did against Newcastle.
You always need players like
stupendous.
Seamus Coleman. You always need players like Leighton Baines, don't you?
Daniel Vickers says Andre Gomez is €14 million on transfer market.
Is he? Yeah. What am I on transfer market?
You're definitely 31 million.
I must be about 80.
Keith Scott says great work and content again, lads. Not really excited about any of the links so far, but to be honest, I keep telling my lads it's just media gossip, and it'll go yellow. Until it goes yellow on Sky Sports, I won't believe it.
I don't even believe it then.
Dave Roberts says he's just joined Premier. Is right, Dave. Top man, thank you very much. Welcome.
Dave, get your Premier night tickets and get down to Premier night. It'll be very, very fun. Take advantage.
Scott says, I think Cody will go to Sheffield United. They play a back three. Yeah, could well do. Could well do, mate. Andre says, Mark Cucurella on loan. Yeah, go on at Chelsea if they want us to keep Cucurella warm for them.
You can't defend either, though.
What?
You can't defend either, though.
He's a decent left back, though. He's quick. Shut up, mate, to be that for you.
He's going to Saudi for 700 billion.
Yeah, he probably will.
I wonder if Dyche will go and get Charlie Taylor back out of Burnley. He was good when he used to play us.
Charlie
He's like 29 now. Better than Nicolenko.
Hugh Ashcroft says, would you have Branthwaite in the first 11? I would.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or sell him. I can't stress enough how ridiculously stupid it would be to have him on the bench next season or to send him on loan.
He's played every game in a good European league now, so
it's tougher than it is thingy though.
Any other for him, any other situation other than playing every game again in a top 5 league would be going backwards.
Yeah,
so if he doesn't play for us, then sell him.
No, absolutely. It is.
Otherwise, you're depreciating his value because he's getting older and he's not playing.
There's much less quality in the Dutch league though than there is the Premier. It's a different kettle of fish playing in the Premier League.
Yeah, but the next step for him
will
be Premier League,
exactly.
and he'll still not be the finished article. He'll still might make mistakes, and he still might be. And obviously, you don't want to be making mistakes at centre back because it normally leads to a goal. And this is why the thing for Deitch is, like John was saying, a manager's time on average at Everton is a lot less than a player's time. So he just wants to get the best people to do the job now. And if you look at the back four, you want Patterson starting, and Mykolenko starting, and Branthwaite starting. That's a young back four. So what do you do? Do you go and get a more experienced left back and a more experienced right back, or do you play Coleman in there to keep Tarkowski in there and then partner in Branthwaite? I don't think as much as I want it to happen, and I think it should happen, I just can't see that happening with Dyche. So
no, Michael Keane will be in all season.
Yeah. So for me, it'd be to sell him. If this club's willing to pay the 20 million rumoured fee.
The Blues, Cucurella's definitely quicker than Mykolenko, in my opinion. Definitely.
Cucurella's a winger.
And he's a nice footballer.
And he's got a belt today.
Cucurella's a winger.
His hair's tremendous.
His
hair is tremendous. I'm just seeing something here. Yeah. Kevlar137 says, what do you lads think about the Saudi League and all the money they're spending? They're rumoured to be signing Ruben Neves, 40 mil, and now apparently loaning him to Newcastle. I mean, what have you made of this? Is this the new China? Has it's got... and potentially got more money to keep spending. So, what have you made of all of the ongoings over the last couple of weeks with it?
Football is and has been for a while all about money, and where there is sickening amounts of money, there will be interest. And whilst we can all campaign for an independent regulator and for change and that it's not right and this, that, and the other, it will never change because these people have got money coming out of every orifice on their body to provide to the Premier League. And whilst the Premier League are receiving that money, they're going to be happy with that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I see this personally as I see in China, as I see in not as much to the MLS, but similar to the MLS, but certainly more China, where older players who are coming towards the end of their career will get a ridiculous amount of money to play there for a couple of years, and you will get some younger players maybe in and around their pomp that will also look and go, do you know what, I'll take that money as well. I spoke about this early on about the Delhi situation. Not every footballer loves playing football. They don't. Not every footballer wakes up every morning and goes, oh my God, I've got the best job in the world. Should they? Yeah, because they run around and kick a ball around for $100,000 a week for 2 hours a day and then 3 hours on a Saturday, whatever. Yes, they should, but they don't. There'll be footballers out there that genuinely don't like football, but they do it because they're very good at it, and that's why they're there. So if you're in that position and you're thinking, I don't really like playing footy, I just do it because I'm good at it, and someone in Saudi goes, here's 50 million a year to come and do it over here, you're going to take it. Remember Oscar just said, I'm not asked about playing in the World Cup. Don't care about having a legacy for my country. I can go and make money that'll make my grandchildren's grandchildren secure forever. I'm going to go and do that. And he went, and no one's ever heard of him since. But he's made a load of money, and fair play to him. So I don't think it'll ever be hearing people saying, will it ever be a top 5 league? No, it won't. It won't, because the heritage, it may be in 100 years if they do everything right and you know, that it's competitive and people start to watch it. Of course, people will watch it for Ronaldo, people will watch it for Benzema, but that can only last for as long as Ronaldo lasts and Benzema. Are they likely to get Erling Haaland in the next 2-3 years at his peak of his career? No. Are they likely to get Mbappe in the next? No, of course. So they're going to get these stars when they're coming towards the end of their career. In 2-3 years' time, Ronaldo won't be playing football. Benzema likely won't be playing football or will be coming to the end of it. So I'm not worried about it either way. Even if Haaland went there tomorrow, I wouldn't be worried. But when people say, is it going to be a top 5 league, this, that and the other, until Mbappe turns around now and goes, no, I want to go and play in Saudi or Qatar or whatever, that's when I go, they're getting players at the peak of their career who could be there for 10 years dominating. They're not at that stage yet. And yeah, it's wrong, and the amount of money, and it's wrong, and that potential deal with Neves going to Newcastle is wrong and all sorts, but the whole Newcastle situation is wrong. It should never have been allowed to happen in the first place. You know, again, it was done, you know, almost overnight and like with blind eye turn to it. So, yeah, football, again, said it before and I'll say it again. If there's billionaires involved, there's not many models involved because you'll struggle. In fact, I go on record saying you will not find a billionaire with good models because the reason they've got that money is because they've had to do other stuff to get that money. And when there's loads of billionaires in the same room, the likelihood is they're going to come up with ideas that aren't very model and don't really respect the traditions of, you know, what we know as football. So we can't change it, can we? We're not gonna, they've got all the money. They're not going to listen. You could get a petition of millions of people saying we don't want this, we don't want this. The Premier League or the FIFA or whoever will just go, have you got 200 million quid? No, we're just saying we don't want it. Oh, go ahead, sweet, because these have got 200 million quid.
See you after.
See you later.
Right, we've got someone on the line. Mike?
I think it might be our favourite hairless individual.
Cosgrove.
Okay. Mike Cosgrove, big Cosgrove.
It's Cosgrove.
Michael, good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are we?
Warm in here, but good.
Good stuff. Good to see you back on cam. Missed you.
Thanks, mate. I've missed you. I thought you'd be here, but
no,
he doesn't live here.
No, but every time I've been here recently, Mike's been here.
He gets around. He has bombed us a bit lately. He's but you know, fair play.
No, it's this thing called a job. It's a pain in the ass.
Well, you say that. You say that. Go ahead, mate.
To be honest, I've just obviously everything that's been going on has been talked about a million times. We're just sort of just a little bit different with the last season. Our use of the loan system, I thought was pretty poor. And this season, obviously, we've got financial issues again by the looks of it, financial restraints. And it was just more a case of, do you think we'll use A, all the loan signings, and B, would you look to use them for players that would come into the actual first 11?
Okay, interesting.
Right.
Come on, off you go.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this whole, we'll sign him. We know he's not good enough to get in the first 11, but he's a number, so we'll sign him and he can go on the bench. Because that's how you end up, pardon me, that's how you end up with El Ghazi, who never comes on, plays 14 minutes. So I was on the pitch longer than El Ghazi that season. That's how you end up with players like Josh King, who never come on and never have any. If we're going to get loan, and it's difficult because there's not going to be many loan players out there, players available for loan that you'd look at and go, you'd walk into a Premier League team, otherwise they wouldn't be there on loan. But that should be the aim, shouldn't it? The aim should be whoever we're looking at to come in needs to be better than what we've got currently, and then what we've got currently drops to the bench, and that's how you improve your team slowly over the years. So for me, I'd be looking at players good enough to come into the first team, and if you look at it and if not, I'd be looking at players that are as good as what we've got in the first team. You're not telling me that there's not a winger out there that's available for loan that isn't as good as Damari Gray, because there must be. I'm not having that there isn't. There must be somewhere, or as good as Neil Mopai, for example. So yeah, I'd be looking at that. As I said, I don't like the whole he's available for loan. He doesn't really fit in and he's not good enough, but we'll bring him in anyway because they don't utilise them. They take up space. Vinagre's another one. Take up wages, and you don't see them. They go on the injury list with an unknown injury and then they leave at the end of the season. So it is difficult because, as I said, Premier League football club, and there won't be many players available for loan that are good enough to walk into Premier League sides. Otherwise, they wouldn't be available for loan. But that's got to be the aim, man, to bring in players.
Yeah,
that
I think in the past, obviously, we certainly under Moyes, we utilised our system much better than we have done lately. I think Conor Cody's a good example of how you can use it. Obviously, a player that's come into the first team, you've had an option to buy. You've also had a good chance to look at him, so it can work really well. But previously, like you say, under this administration, it just feels like we've really not tapped that market well at all. And I think Arteta originally was on loan, was he, before we signed him, and different stuff. We've done well with it in the past, and I just think, again, with the financial restraints, you can certainly with the 4 spots, you might take one who's going to be, I don't know, a backup right winger or a backup left winger for Dwight McNeil or whatnot. But the other 3, you would feel like they've got to be at least, if they're not directly in the first 11, they're certainly pushing that starter, and they're going to be a real good option from the bench to make an impact. Because it just feels like we've not utilised, and it seems strange, certainly for the team or a club at the moment who haven't got money to spend. There's no reason why you can't scour that market, and you can use that. There'll be teams, certainly with financial fair play, with years falling off and the books looking a little bit stronger. You could be going to South America and saying, look, we'll take them on loan with an obligation to buy next season at X amount of money because our account will look healthier then, and different things, and just being a little bit creative. I just think it's a system for right now that we should be massively utilising.
Yeah, I agree.
We definitely should, and I think the thing about it is as well, is like you say, Cam, you don't get ones that aren't really going to push just because it's a body, because that other body should become a kid out the 21s. Yeah. You've got 9 subs, so there's no reason why you can't have academy players on the bench anyway. So if you're trying to get loans in, they have to be good enough to play in the first team. And one of them may well be someone like a Diallo from Manchester United, who's been at Sunderland, had a good season, scored a lot of goals, and he's a wild card option from the bench, but he's not guaranteed to get in every week. He has to earn that. And others may be from clubs around Europe with that option to buy. There's big squads everywhere. Chelsea look like they're cutting everyone, don't they? They're trying to really, Pochettino and their recruitments are trying to cut that squad down. Go and test the water with a couple of their players. And if you can, I'm thinking Armando Broja, who's just come back from a bad injury. So, they've just announced Christopher Nkunku, haven't they, in the last 24 hours, who I think's a tremendous signing for them. Well, that's another one in the way of Broja. So go and say Broja and maybe throw that loan with an option to buy, because he is a player at 21. He's powerful, quick. He's had a really good season at Southampton. Okay, you've got to think 8 or 9 goals overall, but he was someone who you're developing. Get him with an option to buy. Get him involved. Go and see if Chelsea have got anyone else. Pulisic, whoever.
I was just about to say Pulisic.
Whoever had, but they're good enough to get an Everton's team, and Chelsea might be like, no, we're not sure with that. Try and get in there. Try the thing at United. Try teams in Europe. Go see who's in Europe who players who are maybe. But they've got to be good enough to get into our team, or certainly push to get into our team, because there isn't any point letting them loan slots go when you can get people in who are going to push you.
We used the loan
even
slot.
Worse, just don't use them. Exactly.
That's
the thing.
We used one a couple of years ago on El Ghazi, simply because.
But why didn't we play him? The lad that got 10 goals the year before for Villa, so why didn't we give him a go? So that's what I mean. Don't waste the slots. Don't waste them like we did last season. We got Connor Cody, and like Mike rightly said, and he forced his way into the team. Was excellent for most of it. He had drop off at some, and he's deserved maybe to be left out for a little bit, but he was good overall. That was a good loan. Vinagre was a nightmare. Yeah, we had the left back that wasn't fit for. He didn't really put any pressure on Miko. When Michalenko was injured, he wasn't available himself. That was a waste of a loan. Get one who really is gonna challenge for that left back spot and can take it. And that's what we have to do.
It's strange as well to have them 2 spots still available that we didn't utilise. And you would think in January, you would jump on those two loan spots and almost take real gambles and just go, do you know what? Let's, we ended the season with 8 players on the bench. Let's take a gamble with those spots in January and make sure we've got bodies, attacking options of some description to be able to come off the bench. It just seems strange, but what I could all see them using it for as well is, if we were going down, hopefully we're going down like a different recruitment options and, looking a bit more like Brighton do or Brentford do and so on and so forth, where we're not right now, we don't feel too comfortable, or feels like the club don't feel too comfortable in that direction. Would there be options to be able to be, say you're looking at a player for, I don't know, he's an £8 million player. How about you say to a club like, look, we'll bring him in on loan and we'll pay a loan fee of what would necessarily be the first instalment, and we can just have a look at, we can sort of almost a try buy and get a feeling for it and sort of, not all clubs are going to go for it, but some of them will, certainly, the lower League One teams or teams from Belgium and stuff like that. That loan fee alone would set them up, and you can almost just have a real look at them and a feel for them if we're not fully confident of going down that route in terms of putting all our eggs in one basket. So
that's what your loan with an option is, though, isn't it? Essentially, it's what Moyes did. Remember, we took, going back all them years, Joseph Yobo was taken from Marseille loan with an option to buy, and Yobo come in and was excellent, and Moyes bought him. He was just his first proper signing really, and we end up buying him for £5 million, I think it was in the end, and he was good, really good value for Everton. Yobo, that's what you do, don't you? You mentioned Arteta before. His was a loan without an option actually, but we managed to get him in the summer. But those deals are there. You've seen Tottenham doing ones for 2-year loans and things like that. Kulusevski was an 18-month loan, wasn't it? I know it was an obligation at the end, but that's a way round it as well. And
way around the FFP as
well. Of course, there's look at Chelsea, look at what they've done. Amortised it over about 30 years, for certain players. So you've got to be creative. And Everton, as Cam said before, and you just said, we've got to be creative because we haven't got a big fat wedge, have we? So we have to try to do as many creative deals as we can, and we have to also accept though with some of them is that they won't happen until later in the window either. Because some clubs, I imagine the likes of Manchester United with Diallo will take him to America with them and have a look what he's like in pre-season, because they've got some players who've just finished international duty who will still be on holiday when they go off to America when they play Wrexham and stuff, so they're not going to have the full complement of players available on day one. I think Everton will have a couple missing. Wobie's just gone on holiday today, so a few of our internationals won't be back day one either, I don't imagine, because I think they normally get 3 weeks break minimum. So if you're thinking there's 2 weeks till pre-season,
well, Damari Gray in the Gold Cup.
Damari Gray's in the Gold Cup. Jordan Pickford's just finished international duty 2 days ago, so he'll get another week off. So we're not going to have our full first team squad reporting for training on day one. So if you look at that and then put that round all the other clubs as well who've had internationals, then players will be in similar vein as well. So you're gonna have to manage it that way, but. It's an interesting one, Mike, and it's a good point to make. It's about time we utilised all of our loan slots, definitely, especially when you have got a limited budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Nice one, guys. Well,
cheers.
For the rest of the show. And,
top man.
Catch up with you soon.
All right, cheers, Mike. Thanks for calling, mate. See you later. Cheers,
bye,
mate. Ta-ra. If you want to call and become a Premier member, it's £3.50 from £3.50 a month. If you're interested.
And then you can get your tickets to the Premier
And you can
night.
also get tickets for our Premier night, and you can also get 25% off in our store for any merchandise. Just looking here, Paul McNeil wants Gyökeres. I mean, what's your take on Gyökeres? We've got someone else waiting on me now. Yeah. But what's your take on Gyökeres?
Yeah, I think he's exciting. He's definitely the profile that I'd like us to sign. Good age, not young enough to be thinking, is it all potential? Not old enough to be thinking, is he at that end of his career? Good height, physical presence, etc., etc. But I think he would cost us a lot more money than what we can effectively afford. I think if we were to buy him, that would be every penny of our transfer budget at the moment. And if we can do the clever loans and maybe bring in some other players that won't cost us anything, then maybe, but I think we're more likely to not go in that area. Again, I could see him signing for Brentford, to be honest, to replace Tony.
Interesting.
I'd have him, though. I'd have him.
Tommy Kolduch says Gundogan has gone to Barcelona. Wow. We did hear that was almost done before.
That's huge, That is huge, because he was massive for them at the end of the season.
But they don't mind players going.
No, they've just got another world-class fellas that just come in. It's like a factory.
They seem to sell players at the right time.
Kovacic will be unbelievable.
Everyone will be going.
Unbelievable.
People will be saying, I didn't realise, even though most people, and certainly ones who watch this will know, that he's a really, really top player. But now he'll go to another level. What we're seeing in the Premier League, I mean, we've seen him at Real be brilliant. We've seen him for Chelsea have good games and stuff like that. And we will see him at a different level now because he's playing with world-class players.
3 years younger than Gundogan, 29. So
he'll be perfect for them. John, just before we go to Brad on the line, John says, Cam, does Stanley Mills get into Everton's first team next season? Looks a great little player.
No, probably not. He does, and he's had a great season, but the step up from playing in the under-23s and having a good season and scoring goals, not only the step up to the Premier League in terms of the level, but the expectation would be humongous. He's coming in on that basis, he'd be coming into Everton's first team to be good enough to see us not have to go through another relegation battle like we did.
Yeah.
Again, too young, too inexperienced. In an ideal world where we were safe and we had options, then yeah, he's definitely one I would like to see on the bench more often rather than the typical 720 goalkeepers that we have on the bench. But no, I can't see it. I can't see it.
Absolutely. The other thing as well, just very quickly, Gavin Johnson just says, Baz, you watch a lot of MLS. What do you know about Vasquez, the Cincinnati striker? Brandon Vasquez, I wouldn't take him. He's big, he's powerful, he's a unit, plays for the United States national team. He's 25. I'm not saying he couldn't do a job for Everton, because he could. He is big and powerful. He's not quick, he's big and powerful, but I've just seen him too many times for Cincinnati where he's been just non-existent in the game. Then other games he's looked good, do you know what I mean? And you go, could he? But just the step from there, I look at someone like Almiron, who had a great season for Newcastle last season, but he took a while to settle, and yet he was phenomenal for Atlanta in MLS, like really good. And people were saying at the start of last season, like, he was linked with Everton. Yeah, and everyone was like, don't want him. And then he ended up, I think he got 9 goals for Newcastle. He ended up having a great season. There's Thiago Almeida at Atlanta now, Argentinian, obviously 21, fantastic. He'll come to Europe. Will he be good enough for the Premier League? Don't know. He's quite slight, great player, looks tremendous, but Premier League, I think, it'd eat him up right now. So although Brandon Vasquez is physically could cope, I imagine, I don't know whether he's quick enough or his movement's good enough. So that's what I would say now. We'll have to wait and see. That's not to say he couldn't come in and do his job, but someone like Kai Kamara, who has been tremendous in MLS, powerful, he's 38 now or something. He came in years ago and went to Norwich City, scored 1 goal in half a season. Who's it against?
Everton.
It was
well, obviously it
was the winner against Everton, but he come in and struggled in the Premier League, even though he was 6'3", good in the air. You've got to, and he's been really good in MLS. So it's a tough one. I think if you're coming from like Major League Soccer, you've got to almost have blistering pace. Really, just while you get used to it. But Vasquez, he is an interesting one. I'm just like that with him, to be honest with you. Right, sorry, we've kept Brad waiting for ages. I apologise. So let's go to Brad. Brad, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, mate. Sorry about that. What have you got to say?
Not a problem. So one of the things that I've been kicking around in my head for a while now, you talk about fullbacks and we're needing a replacement for Mikalenko or somebody to come in for him.
Or push him, or someone who can push him. Yeah.
And a suggestion's made, and then like what triggered it in my head was Cam said, well, he can't defend. Well, take the lad across the park where 2 years ago he was seen as the best fullback on the planet. And we all know he can't defend to save his life. And then the other night, Southgate pushes him up into the midfield, and it's a revelation because he's got offensive output. And it seems to me that in the modern day, like, your defensive capabilities as a fullback can be non-existent so long as you have offensive output.
Brad, can you just repeat that last bit? Sorry, mate, you were in and out. What were you saying about the output?
Oh, well, it's so long as you're like productive in the offensively, it doesn't matter how poor you are defensively.
But you have to
fullback in the modern game, because Trent can't defend, but he's seen as a great fullback.
I think for a second I thought you were going to say put Mikalenko in midfield for a second. Then
no.
I think I do think the thing with Trent Alexander-Arnold's a little bit different, because he was a midfielder to start with, was he not, in their youth academy?
And we've all been saying he should play higher up. It's not like Klopp's a genius.
No, he lost him a Champions League final because of how bad he was defensively, and he is awful defensively, and he always has been awful defensively. But going forward, you're right, he's exceptional. He can pass a ball. His switch of play is really good. He can hit a ball. He's clever. The ball the other night to Saka was really, really good. So I think his natural progression into a midfielder has been more sort of, I think he was pushed out. It'd almost be like if James Garner played right back now for Everton, and then in 4 years' time it was actually like he can't really defend much. Well, he started as a midfielder anyway, and was put there. It's not. I just think Mykolenko is bang average, and I think to be a solid Premier League team, I think you need more than Mykolenko. If Mykolenko was a left back in the Championship, would he be the best left back in the Championship? In your opinion? I don't think he would.
I think he'd be. I think
he'd be up there. He'd be decent. He'd do a job.
I think people would look at him and go, "He's good." I think.
I don't know. I just think he's all right.
I think Miko fits a system, and like he is a very good low block defensive fullback.
Yeah,
and I agree with you that like he looked better when he had McNeil playing in front of him because his defensive work rate was outstanding. But as far as like kind of leads me to the next point, like we don't really know what like system or style Deitch is going to play. Even though everyone says it's 4-4-2 long ball, like he actually came in and made us better offensively than he did defensively.
He did. Mm-hmm. He did.
And they're like the interview that Townsend did on Talkshite, he said that Deitch is a strong manager and he's not going to let anybody come in that he doesn't like see as a fit in part of his system. So like the loans like Vinagre of the world, that stuff's not going to happen under him. And even though it shouldn't be the manager driving the transfers, it should be the director of football. And then like, you go get the players that I want that fit our system and then hire a manager to fit the director of football system. But those kind of things aren't going to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just very, what I wanted to say quickly before about the Mykolenko thing is where you were talking about Alexander-Arnold, he was exceptional in one part of his game. So the other part of his game, even though we could all see it and go, why did they play him there? He's an absolute nightmare. He was exceptional in creating chances for Liverpool, so therefore you can push him higher. If Mykolenko was exceptional defensively, then I don't think many people would question it. People might go, well, doesn't create anything. Well, it's okay, put someone very creative in front of him. But I think the thing is, we get zero from him going forward, really. And defensively, I just think he's a decent defender, that's it. And when I say decent, I just mean he does a job, and you're right in a low block. But in terms of, I think that's where Everton have gone wrong with the recruitment on your second point of, how much do we bow to the manager? Is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know. You think in theory, if you're using a director of football model and you're giving them autonomy to build a team, then you let him decide it and your manager has to coach them. But I'm not convinced Everton do that. So therefore, there has to be a happy medium between them both. And how I see that working, I don't know what you is, find me a left back. Just use left back as the position. Find me a left back who's quick and is creative going forward. And Kevin Thelwell comes and sits down with us and gives us three who fit the criteria, and we pick one of them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I just think if you've got Kevin Thelwell saying X is the right person, and you've got Sean Dyche going, I don't like him, I want this fella over here, and they're both totally different, I don't think that's healthy either. So
I think that's what's happened as well for a number of years at the football club. Dyche doesn't strike me. Or Mashiri going, you're not getting either of them.
I've got one here, lad.
You're getting Yarmolenko to play left back, end of story. No, again, there does have to be that continuity, and ultimately Sean Dyche doesn't strike me as the type of person, type of manager that would be happy to not be part of those conversations. And Sean Dyche might be perfectly happy with Mykolenko and the way he plays. Or, as we mentioned before, we might be in a position where he might look and go, that's one to keep an eye on for improvement, but that isn't the only player that we need to improve. And it's not the priority. The priority is going forward. That, as much as I don't massively rate Vitaly Mykolenko, and I think he can put in a good... I think he's, as I said, all right. I think he's okay. I think defensively, he's all right. Sometimes he can be horrendous. Sometimes he can be decent. And most of the time, he's sort of in the middle. I
don't see his name on the team sheet. Don't go, why is he playing?
No, I don't.
I never do that, to be honest.
But is that part and parcel of the reason because we've got no other left back? It's sort of like...
I honestly don't look at him and go, he is a massive issue.
No, he's not. He's not a massive issue.
I want more from him because I feel like we've been spoiled as well. We had Leighton Baines for so many years, and we've had Luca Dean after it. So I think we've been spoiled.
Luca
with
Dean wasn't a great
creativity.
defender either. by the way.
No, but he was good going forward.
He was good going forward. Yeah.
Well, in his defense, he's operated under, if you count Dunk as a caretaker, 4 different managers, and he's like, I don't want to. Obviously, what's going on in his home country weighs on his mind, but like, he's a young kid and trying to develop and like adapt into the Premier League. Like, he could potentially get better with a little bit of stability.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely.
So like, finally, it's kind of like what you described, where your director of football sits down with 3 options and says, pick from these 3. These are the guys I found. That's in a perfect system, but this isn't a perfect system because we're Everton Football Club. And like, everything has a knock-on effect. Like, earlier you said like we should have been part of the Premier League tour in the United States, but we didn't have Premier League security until the final game of the season. That's in part and parcel due to our poor recruitment, our poor form, everything, and it just goes down the line. Like, every bad decision like is coming to roost, and we've staved off relegation 2 years in a row, and like how much like that's all the bad decisions are coming to a head. Yeah. And it's no more evident than what's on the pitch. And like, our inability to make transfers or do anything, that's because we have no clue, and the club doesn't communicate anything. We have no clue what's going to happen as far as financially. Are we getting investment? Are we selling the club? Nobody knows anything. And because of that gross ineptitude at mismanagement, like, it leads us to where we are, and it's 9 days away from the 1st of July, and we have no signings, and everybody else is sprinting ahead of us. And by the way, we finished 17th, and letting anybody else sprint ahead of us, like, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
I hope not, because if it gets worse than last season, then we're down, aren't we?
Thanks for that, Brad.
You were 20 minutes away from going this time. No, listen, we all know Everton have been run like a circus for the last 5 or 6 years, and the reason being is because the people that have been running the football club are clowns. So, you ultimately you have to call a spade, and that's exactly what it is. We hope now that with change at board level, and again, hopefully we start to see a new direction, and we start to see things being done properly, and what we would deem as the correct way for the Premier League Football Club. I do think Dyche is a very clever man and isn't likely to sit down and accept, players that he doesn't want or people that he doesn't necessarily think are good enough, etc. I think he's quite hard in his personality to be able to stand up to that and say, well, no, I don't want him, I'd rather him. But again, he has to work with the director of football, and the director of football has to know what suits the manager. Listen, in a perfect world, we wouldn't be buying players for Sean Dyche. We'd be buying players for Everton, and Sean Dyche would fit into what Everton are. But in an ideal world, and I can guarantee you this isn't the case, Everton would already have a list of managers ready to replace Sean Dyche in case he gets the sack next season, because we live in a world of Premier League football where any manager, it doesn't matter whether it's Sean Dyche, Pep Guardiola loses 10 games on the bounce next season, incredibly unlikely, but if he does, he's sacked. Jurgen Klopp loses 10 games on the bounce, incredibly unlikely. If he does, he's sacked. It's very, very possible that we're sitting here this time next year and we're not even mentioning Sean Dyche because he's not the Everton manager anymore. But that would require some form of contingency plan, and that would require the club being run properly, and it hasn't been. So hopefully we see the changes in that way, and hopefully, as I said, the director of football and the manager can sit down and figure out what we need and the positions we need to improve on. I would like a better left back personally, but I understand that it isn't the biggest issue with the football club. And if Everton go into next season with Vitaly Mykolenko playing 38 games, as long as we've got 2 new forwards, a creative winger and a creative midfielder, I'm sound with that. And you're right, he could get better. He's only young, new country, difficult things going on in his life. He could do, Luca Dean was poor defensively at times when he was here. Seamus didn't have the greatest start to his Everton career defensively. He grew into it. So there's room to improve, and he very well, he very well do that. But yeah, again, I just think we could do with more, but he's not the biggest issue.
No.
Definitely, we need to score goals. Like, you can't
absolutely
the game.
Absolutely.
Like, I understand that. It's irritated me for a while that, like, fullbacks that are unable to defend are seen as bad, even though the lot across the park, can't defend. And
oh no.
2 years ago when the quad was on, he was the best fullback in the world.
that was according to them, though.
That's them, though, and that's to no one else.
They'll win their first game of the season, and he will be back to being the best right back in the world.
Or the best midfielder ever to walk the earth.
It's just, you know, I've seen someone say the other day, "Oh, forget Bellingham. We've got, you know, he's just as good because he'd had a decent game against a team full of." No disrespect to Malta, but not very good footballers in an international game, and they're all of a sudden saying, "You're this world-class midfielder in Bellingham we wanted for 6 months."
7-0, not very good.
No,
don't listen to what they say, mate. They talk nonsense.
Cheers.
It's right. Cheers, Brad.
Mate,
take care,
you.
mate. And he's gone. Cheers. Anyone else, Ned?
Yeah, I'm gonna get on
Okay. Andre says Jordan Larsson from Copenhagen FC plays for Swedish national side. Be 5 million. He's a right winger, countryman of Gyökeres. Isn't that Henrik Larsson's lad?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah, you never know. Never know. What a player he was, by the way.
Henrik
Larsson.
Henrik.
What a footballer he was. Andy Mullen says we need goals. If we defend the same this year but scored 20 more goals, we'd be laughing. You're absolutely right, mate. I went through all of the numbers, and our defensive record wasn't bad at all, really. It's just offensively we are absolutely
until we brought
awful.
Michael Keenan.
Yeah, it did get worse unfortunately, when Michael come in. We have got John on the line. John, how are you?
Hey lads, what's going on?
Hiya, mate.
All good. Here, how are you?
I'm good. It's hot here in St. Louis today.
Yeah.
It's funny when I watch you and you say it's boiling. I sort of chuckle because I don't think your version of boiling is our version of boiling.
No.
Our buildings aren't designed.
Our buildings don't have air.
No, I totally understand. Well, my air conditioning's out, so I'm dealing with like portable air conditioning.
Okay,
so I feel you.
We did experience Washington, D.C. and Minnesota, and it was very hot. And I've been to Orlando many times in the humidity.
I know you understand.
I know what really, but
It's just ginger.
In this country, it is very warm, and it is the buildings, really. It's not outside, it's fine. It's just the air just
That's
sits.
interesting because with global warming, you guys are going to have to start thinking
of aircon.
Whether you can, of having all your buildings air conditioned. So anyway.
There you go.
Yeah, I know. I understand you're sitting in a box with like one window and no air.
Exactly.
Very literally.
And lots of lights, so it is warm. Not complaining.
That's
fans
true.
all right, though, you know.
Hey,
fans doing
the
an all
fan
right
is
job.
doing up, but the oscillation of the fan.
It turned itself off before.
It did turn. It had, even the fan got off before. But
get
it's
yourself
back
a little swamp cooler or something where you can just like pour cold water in the back or ice in the back, and then it's like a fan that blows.
Okay.
Air, so.
Oh my
right,
God.
we will look into that. What do you want to say, mate?
Well, yeah, no, I wanted to kind of, I just jumped in to kind of extend on, I think, the theme of today of, just recruitment, basically. So I posted in the Patreon chat, but there's and again, just read one article on the kid, don't know, but I was reading an article about this Leif Davis kid at Ipswich, left back.
Oh, yeah,
Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
So
highly rated, very highly rated.
Like the next big thing. So that, I don't know, that's like intriguing to me of like, maybe he's going to be in the championship, but like, would you guys even think about bringing somebody like that? Because that's basically the English or the British version of picking somebody young and cheap out of Europe, in one of the like Austria or something like that. But if he's that highly rated, there wouldn't be a ton of pressure on him to come in and be the guy right off the bat necessarily. And again, I have no idea if they get rid of him, but they do want Sims, so maybe there's something to be done. I don't know. So that's just as an example of like, if we wanted to think outside the box, we could bring highly rated kids in cheaper. They don't work out, it doesn't cost. It's not like our past failures. But the other thing is since St. Louis got an MLS team, I've actually been following MLS, and I'm really
good lad.
St. Louis City.
Good lad. Big. Where's Yao? Where's Big Yao? Where's Klaus gone? He's injured.
No. So I was going to bring him. So he's been injured, and he's probably out for another month.
Okay.
So, but I was going to bring him up because, like, again, I couldn't speak about players in the MLS with any degree of knowledge, whatever. But it's funny watching St. Louis City, which I don't know how much you've gotten to see us play, but
I've seen quite a lot. Exciting.
Incredibly exciting.
Exciting team.
Full, pedal to the, I don't want to say heavy metal football, but, pedal to the metal. Press,
Remain Berkey in goal, mate, has been unbelievable.
Well, and Edward Leuven in midfield, who's also hurt.
Yeah.
So I was just going to bring like Klaus, like Joao Klaus, Edward Leuven, and I don't know if you've seen this kid Blom play, the defensive midfielder we got from South Africa.
Yeah.
He only got in. He got over an injury, got in for like 4 or 5 games, and now he's hurt again. But well, like when I watch Blom play, I get serious like Conte vibes and Donaghy vibes in his prime. Like this kid is all over. He's a ball winner. He's aggressive. So as an example, like I don't necessarily, I'm not saying Everton could or should go in for these guys. They probably should. But, just an example, it's just kind of opened my eyes to there is a lot of talent in MLS. And whether it's young American talent, there's a few people I could mention here, young American talent. But, MLS does a really good job of bringing people in from some of the well, like, even Argentina, Brazil, but some of the, South Africa is not like a highly picked over area. So they do a pretty good job of bringing these guys in, and then developing them. So, you would know better than I do. I know the standard of play is massively different, but at the end of the day, you guys have pointed this out too. Some guys, and I don't know if there's a way to determine this, but some guys actually play better every time they step up in competition.
Absolutely.
Because it's like the level of competition is actually holding it back. So I was just kind of curious about that. And then there's one other guy for St. Louis. This is for the future, but if you want to know the next big thing in MLS, maybe next year, the year after, it's this kid, Caden Glover for St. Louis City FC. He's a homegrown. He's 15, but he's 6'2", big unit, scored goals at every level, part of the U.S. men's national team. And I'm actually pretty friendly with one of the starters from St. Louis FC, and I asked him about it, and he just his eyes got really big, and he said, "Oh, he's big and he's good. He's going to be top." So just a name to remember out there, Caden Glover. So I'm just kind of curious as to your thoughts on all that. So.
Okay, so I do watch a lot of MLS and have for years. I've got the Apple subscription. I stay up till stupid o'clock on a Sunday morning, and then I have to get up and go and coach a kids team about 4 hours later. But so I do watch a lot of it, and I've watched a lot of St. Louis this season, to be fair. I watched DC United, obviously because of Rooney and stuff, so I watch a lot of it, and there is some good players. I really like Cade Cowell at San Jose, and although he's stagnated a little bit, I think that's an example of not getting him out when someone should have done. Because he's 6'1", I think. He's quick, plays off either flank, can play through the middle. And he's someone
we're playing with that team.
No, not at all. And I think someone could go and get him. Obviously, there's Caleb Wiley at Atlanta, who looks like he's going to be a top player. He's another young kid, and we've seen, thinking of the other Kate, there's a lot of Cades around.
It's popular.
Trying to think,
there's a couple of young kids.
There's the kid who went out to Germany as well. Yeah. And obviously we saw the likes of Alphonso Davis. He played in MLS when he was 15. Then
Gio Reyna.
Vancouver, and then went off. Gio Reyna is obviously Claudio's lad. He's in Dortmund. So
well, he never played in MLS.
No, he wasn't in MLS. He'd already gone. But like I said, Alphonso Davis had his debut at 15, playing for Vancouver Whitecaps before he went to Bayern.
Well, there's like as an example, like had we been on Tyler Adams before he went to Red Bull Leipzig,
absolutely,
you know what I mean, or even after he was there, but like I kind of think like
could be on him now.
A lot about, I would be on him too now. Like I think either this morning or today you mentioned which of the Leeds players would you have. For me, it's a no-brainer. It's Tyler Adams. He's unbelievable. He didn't really get a chance to show much with Leeds because he was hurt a lot. But no, but there's a couple young kids like McGlynn, Jack McGlynn, who's like 20, and then there's another kid for the Revolution, Noel something. But they both have UK passports, or one's got an Irish passport, the other one's got a UK passport. So I know they're being looked at every hit. But yeah, so I don't know.
Caden Clark, who's gone off from MLS as well. He went off to Leipzig, I think. He's another one who's obviously in with who's highly rated as well. So there's I think there's loads.
Yeah, there's loads. I mean, if we're looking for a center back, Miles Robinson from Atlanta's U.S. men's national team, he's actually out of contract. So some of these guys might be more looking at for January and stuff like that. But I guess one of my other larger points, though, and I've kind of a different spin on it, is I think our goal short term, the plan should be get a starting 11 that is strong enough to keep us out of relegation trouble, right? Yeah. Mid-table obscurity. What that then allows you to do is take chances on our own young kids, or bring in younger kids from abroad or from the championship, or League One, things like that.
Yeah.
Because then there's not as much you're not throwing him right into the gauntlet. So like with Mills, again, I don't know. Like what do I know? But every time I've seen him, I'm like, you know what? Why don't we just keep him for the first half of the year? Let him train with the first team every day. Put him in there, give him a chance, see. Because again, you're never going to know until you try. If he's not quite up to speed, then I think loan him out in January. But I would like to, because we're desperate for a right winger. You know, and every time I've seen him at the U20, he just looks a cut above everybody else on the field.
Oh, listen, I think if you're looking at Stanley Mills, he's got an eye for goal. Yeah. He works hard. We were in Minnesota, and he came on in Minnesota and looked quite good, didn't he? In fact, he created that chance.
He was one of our best players on that tour.
He did. He created that chance that Delhi.
He was probably our best playing on the tour.
He probably was. He also played right back at times. Yeah, and was comfortable. And I don't.
So there's cover right back. You know. So
I just don't understand why Lampard never used him. I honestly, it baffles me. Deitch is a different ballgame, isn't it? But I don't understand
why Lampard let Cannon go out on loan when we were desperate for a striker. I mean, again, whether Cannon's good enough, I think he might be, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of I'm glad he went out and did well. He's got confidence. But the other thing about Mills too is he's got that DNA. I mean, he's the son of a very good professional football player. So because one of the things I think you worry about with young kids is their emotional intelligence, right?
Oh yeah.
Can they handle it? Well, this kid's been raised by a professional football player. I don't think that's as much of a worry for him. But anyway, that's where it's kind of what if I was in charge, that would be my plan. And then, you know, I think Cam, sorry, good to talk to you, by the way. I've never gotten a chance to talk to you.
And you, mate, and you.
No, I really respect your opinions too.
Thank you.
And I do watch your channel as well. You talked about having a plan for managers, right? Because manager turnover, so you need to have this is what the Brightons and the Brentfords of the world do well, right? And they're the two that keep getting name checked. Is like they basically say, okay, here's our squad. If we lose any of these players, we've got a list of 4 or 5 guys to go after, right? And if one of them gets signed by somebody else, we just move somebody else in. So when they leave, they just immediately start working their list. And I don't know. I mean, you'd like to think we do that, but there doesn't seem to be. It just seems to be very random.
One of the biggest examples of that recently is the Basuma situation with Brighton. And I remember when Basuma was at his pomp at Brighton and the whole conversation was, oh, Basuma's going to move on, he's this, he's that, he's the other. And if Basuma had been an Everton player, we'd have lost him and we'd have been scraping around to spend 40-50 million pounds to try and replace him. They lost him to Tottenham. He didn't have a great season at Tottenham. They brought through Caicedo, and he's now going to go for 80 million, and he had a better season than Basuma. And then when Caicedo goes, they'll have somebody else that comes in, and Caicedo might have a great start at Chelsea, and this fella who comes in for him will look brilliant again. So, yeah, you're spot on. There always needs to be contingency plans with players and managers, and it's not a case of being disloyal to your manager, or it's not a case of being negative, and you know,
being prepared.
It's being prepared. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and you know, not to be, again, I don't like to criticize people's jobs when I don't know what they do, but you know, if they're not doing that, if Thelwell and his team are not doing that, I don't know what they're doing 11 months out of the year or 10 months out of the year, other than the monthly, you know, the month or two in some, you know, 2-3 months in summer, and maybe like in November, December before the January, you know, I don't really understand what they do all year long if they don't have this kind of a system in place.
Everton should permanently have a list of 5 managers to replace the manager, and that list will change. Of course, it will change. People will drop in, people will drop out, but they should, and they haven't. The proof is in the pudding. Bringing Benitez in to replace Ancelotti was proof of that. Bringing Dyche in because he was one of the only 3 managers that was available at the time was proof of that. Okay, Dyche has come in and done a good job, and I'm not saying I want him to be sacked, but Everton should be sitting there now thinking, well, there is, and whether people like it or not, and whether people think it's negative or not, there is a massive possibility that Sean Dyche isn't here in December, because any Premier League manager can be sacked off the back of a few bad results, including Sean Dyche, including anybody. So there needs to be that contingency plan. Same with players, as you've just mentioned. We should be in a position where we lose one and we've got 4 names to come in and potentially replace them, and you go, can you get the number 1 target? No, because of finances or whatever. You move to number 2, you move to number 3, you know, so on and so forth. But we just don't have that in place, and we can, you know, as much as we can say, oh, well, we might do, the proof is that we don't, because we've lost players, i.e. Richarlison, before, and we haven't replaced them with anybody that was of the sort or of the like, and we've lost managers and we haven't been able to replace them. Look at Brighton. You know, if you'd have said to a Brighton fan this time last year, you're going to lose Graham Potter, that they've gone, well, we're not going to sack him because he's doing a brilliant job, he's this, that, the other. But Brighton knew full well there was a possibility he could leave. He moved on, he went and got his replacement out of Sampdoria, and he's come in and arguably done a better job than what Potter could have done or would have done. He's gotten them into Europe, so. And Brighton will have a contingency plan for if Roberto De Zerbi leaves, because they'll be thinking he's done well here, so he might actually get, be sniffed around. And if Ange Postecoglou doesn't quite hit the ground running and he loses his job in the first couple of months, Tottenham might look and go, we'll get De Zerbi or Chet or whoever it might be. So Brighton will have a name, there to come and replace De Zerbi, even though he's one of the most, if not the most secure manager in the league at this point, because that's how football clubs should be ran. And Everton haven't been ran like that, and hopefully that changes, but we won't know that until we see it, until a manager leaves and within a day we've got a new manager and it's like, oh my God, that was actually as if we'd already planned that. Or a player leaves and next minute we've got a ready-made replacement to come straight in and we go, oh my God, that looks like we've actually meant to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But by the way, I think Bournemouth hit a home run with their guy from Spain. Everything I've read about him, I think they hit a home run with the guy from Rayo, Vallecano.
I don't know much about him, but I know Gary O'Neill.
I've read one article, so that makes me an expert. But no, everything I read about him, the way that he transformed that side on basically no money, his approach to football, which again is press, play into the spaces from the back. He's not afraid of, he's not a play from the back guy like Pep. He's more of a let's use our defenders to get the ball into space and then have quick athletic people run into it, which seems like common sense to me. But anyways, one last thing and I'll let you go. The wild fantasy, but any chance that Pochettino doesn't fancy Richarlison and we can get him back on loan?
Postecoglou, you mean? I'm sure Pochettino.
I'm sorry. Not Pochettino. What the other piece? Sorry, the other Postecoglou.
Postecoglou.
There's a possibility.
There is,
but I don't think there's a possibility he'd come back to Everton. I think if Richarlison leaves, he will step up again.
Alone, he might come back on.
I think there'd be other teams.
That's why I said we could.
But
buy
other
him
teams,
back. Like a one year loan, because he loves Everton, so he might look at it as an opportunity to come back home.
The only way Richarlison comes back to Everton is if he's on the transfer list and he forces to come back to Everton. But there will be other teams that are in the Champions League or in Europe that are sniffing around.
Look at him,
yeah, Atletico.
I would be surprised. I mean, Ancelotti loved him, so I'm a little surprised that Ancelotti.
Well, there's rumours, isn't he?
Well, he's going to Brazil, isn't he, Ancelotti?
Well, there's rumours that Madrid.
Well, that's what I mean. I seen something yesterday that said he's about to be announced as the Brazil manager, but then I've also seen Madrid saying, or rumours coming out of Madrid, that he may well end up staying, but I don't know. I hadn't heard that.
We can all dream.
Yeah, we can dream. We can
all dream.
If we bring him back on loan, he might see as an opportunity to rebuild his reputation and then get an even bigger move than Spurs, which obviously is not looking like a big move after all. So.
There you go. Nice one. Cheers,
y'all. Nice one.
Take care, mate. Ta-ra, mate. Ta-ra. Cheers, pal. Listen. Richie back on loan. Be lovely. I can't see it happening, but it would be lovely. Still comes back to Liverpool for some reason. Daniel O'Connor says hypothetical and obviously no chance with finances in our current situation, but we were linked a few years back. But Christophe Gaultier is now available. Would you have took him over Dyche if things were different? Did take Lille from 17 to the title in over 4 years.
Not in the position that we're in. He would be on the list. He'd be on the list, but not where we were.
We should have just given him the job. He was desperate for it.
Yeah, we literally.
He was desperate for it.
We did the full effort. Yeah, which is
so. Right, we're gonna take our final call now. It is Degsy. Degsy, are you there?
I'm here, lads. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you loud and clear, mate.
Yeah, great. Hi, guys. I'm sorry it's been so long contacting you, but you know my situation lately. But just to let you know, got my ticket for your night out, so that's good.
Good lad.
Everybody's talking about transfers and, the rumour control that's going on at the moment. But can we actually be talking about transfers while Mr. Kenwright's situation isn't so? We haven't got a ball. We don't know who back us financially. So are we still in the big mess in the season?
Okay, you're breaking up a bit, but I think what you were saying was, can we still be talking about transfers while there's still so much uncertainty?
Are we still in a big mess
over the board?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't confirmed MSP, have we?
Nope.
Not as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
We know the local people who have said this money's for the stadium to make sure it gets finished. But MSP, we were told, or rumour control again through the papers, that they were, they were ready to sign up the deal. They wanted to buy the club, but it wasn't happening.
Is there a frog next to you, Dex? It sounds, honestly...
No, not at all.
Every time you talk, I can hear you, but I can also hear like a frog sound as well.
Oh, no, it's, I live in a care home. You're probably hearing alarms going off people buttons and things like that.
Okay. Right, okay, Cam, let's...
I'm just a bit worried that we're all talking about transfers, and yet we haven't even got anything sorted as per a board. Financial situation. I'll wait till the 1st of July so we can declare this year's monies that might alter our spending attitude.
Yeah.
But it's all hairy-fairy as per usual, isn't it? We're only hearing the smokers' room in the back of the pub, the Guardians, the Mails, and all these sorts of people talking about Everton in for this, Everton for them for that. The people that know, and let's face it, you guys and the other podcasters and whatever, usually have your ear to the ground and are very close to what's going on. You couldn't swear what's going on at the moment, could you?
No, not at all. I mean, Cam...
You see, so it's all hairy-fairy to me. And then how can we talk about transfers until we know the financial situation is sorted? We know that MSP are on board, or my choice would have always been 777 when I looked at them. But we've gone for MSP, apparently, but no noises from them either. And Mr. Kenwright is spending the longest weekend on history.
He has had a good 48 hours, to be fair. That's a long 48
hours.
Well, it's a fairly good one. I mean,
Nick F said, is Degsy on the submarine looking for the Titanic?
That is.
Yeah,
that is too soon.
No, we can hear a frog. We can hear the frog chorus. At the end of the day, right, Cam, where do you stand with... Obviously, where Everton are right now. We have to talk about transfers because that's what the club ultimately still has to move forward, doesn't it? It can't sit around going, well, we've got to wait for MSP or we've got to wait for Bill Kenwright.
I'm just asking.
No, I know you're
just asking you a question. Can we move forward and go in place?
Cam, go on.
I mean, what self-respecting player is going to come to a club that isn't even being run?
Well, I think one of us made a good point earlier. I can't remember who it was about the players. It wasn't me. I was sat over there.
Oh, okay.
Players being given the opportunity to play in the Premier League, and on the basis that in a couple of years they'll get the chance to potentially move on to a bigger sort of, not a bigger club, a club in the Champions League or a club in Europe, and there'll be a lot of players around Europe that will look at Everton and think, well, okay. Again, we
Premier League's the pull.
It is, and we need to move away from we only want to sign you if you want to play for Everton for the rest of your life and your only goal is Everton. Now, I've got no problem signing an exciting striker who can score goals, who's coming on the basis that in 2 years he leaves. I've got no issue with that whatsoever.
Have you got a problem with signing a player on loan with no intention of signing him permanently? So therefore, developing a player for another club.
We're desperate. None at all. We were desperate to get 2 full strikers in.
Yeah.
And how we get them, I don't care. As long as they're fit, as long as they stay fit, they're young, athletic players.
Eugene says you sound like a bit like a Dalek here, Degs.
I have got an infection at the moment.
It's Degsy, it's not your voice. It's what it is, right? Internet. It's the internet. It must be your internet. We can hear you, but also we can hear the frog in the background or the Dalek. So your voice is sound. We can just hear the frog or the Dalek. It's no problem. I'm sorry. Can't go on back to any issue with.
If I have no issue with, if you were to say to me now, Cam, we sign a player in the next 2 weeks. He comes in. And I know you can't do this because there's no guarantees in football, but he scores 15 goals next season, but he comes out in the media every week and says, can't wait to get off, can't wait to go back to my other club next season. No issue with it. As long as he scores 15 goals, don't care. because we're at this point now where we've been so starved of everything for the last 2 years that there is no guarantee that Everton will be a Premier League team the season following. We can all sit here and look at the Premier League and go, oh, we'll be all right because look at some of the teams in it. But ultimately, we said that the same last season. We always looked at Bournemouth and went, they're gone, so that's at least 1 done. Fulham are gone, so that's at least 2 done. Neither of them went. They both stayed up. Forest stayed up. Yeah. So, again, if the auspices that loan player is coming in and we're gonna sort of nurture him and improve him, and then he's gonna go back to his parent club with no option to buy, as long as we've nurtured him and improved him, he would have then improved Everton, and ultimately it would have been then a good loan deal. So no, I have no issue with it. I just want players to come in and improve Everton, and ultimately, if that means, I think Diallo from Manchester United is a good example of that. He wouldn't, if he come in and done well, he wouldn't sign for Everton permanently, because likely he'd get in Manchester United's team or he'd go to a team in Europe, etc., etc. But for that to be the case, he would have had to have come in and played well for Everton. I say this every year, I've got no problem. I said it when we signed Dele, and people went, oh, 40 million. I sat here and I said, I hope we pay 40 million for Dele, because it's on the basis that he's been bloody brilliant for us, and he's improved us massively. Absolutely. And he's done everything that it meant to get to that stage of 40 million. I've got no issue with it. No issue whatsoever with buying players on the auspices that if they improve Everton massively, they leave the football club in the future, because it means Everton improve massively. Yeah. And we aren't at the stage where we can only take on players on the promise that they're here for 5 years or they're here for 6 years. No. If you're gonna come in and your aim is, right, I'll come to you, but in 2 years I want to be playing in the Champions League, sound, because that means that you're going to have to play effing brilliant for 2 years to get that move. And if you play effing brilliant for 2 years, then we're much better. Happy days. Absolutely.
The Blues says we've got no money, so we sign the players on, though. Literally, that's what we did, and we had a great season, didn't we? It was a tune as well, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care if they just come for the season. Even if we pay very small amounts for people and they stick around for a season, and we sell them on if we bought them, and we make money from it.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
Because at the end of the day, you've got to bring money into your football club.
Yeah.
And without the investment that I don't think's happening, because surely this MSP would have been in by now and kicking up a fuss. How do we go about it? Because you can only have 4 loans. And I just feel that, and am I right, that once we get to the 1st of July, we lose one of the heaviest loss seasons.
Yeah.
We're only down about 40 million on last season?
I think there's a chance Everton now make a profit.
What?
In this year.
What's that?
Because a 92 million minus falls off.
What's a profit?
Yeah. And what's a profit? And if we do sell Onana, which I'm all for, I've got to be honest, he's flattered to deceive. I honestly believe we've got a much better player in Garner, the younger Garner. Forward thinking, young, brilliant. I'm happy with Mikalenko. I don't see a rush to buy a left back. He can play at left back. But it's the forward, it's the attacking options we've got to improve on.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got to score goals. And
absolutely.
if we bring 2 strikers in, it's changed Calvert-Lewin's mind. Because he's never a rethink, hasn't he? He's got to say to himself, well, how am I going to get back into this team?
Definitely, yeah.
Because I still do think that he's our number 1 shot at getting goals when and if he's fit. But he's got no incentive. He's got nobody pushing him. So you can get this excuse. Well, it's not my fault this season. It wasn't my fault. I was injured. But you've got to have people pushing on each position. We were led to believe that the academy is sorted out now. Now Unsworth's gone. So surely we must be producing something. I'm losing a bit of touch with the club because of my situation now, you see. So I can only catch up as and when I can. I catch your programs, but only when I can watch them.
Yeah, of course.
But I can't be live as I used to be. But my passion is not. I'll still be there every game.
Of course you will, mate. But
I got sick last year through of the football. I don't mean I got physically sick. Didn't call my illness. I thought, oh my God, here we go again.
Yeah.
You know, and I've seen a few of these relegation battles now, you know, and I feel that last year was the worst of the lot.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Because we've always had a striker or brought in a striker that we've known could pull us through, and we've had 2 years of nothing bringing in.
Yeah,
and we've not produced one. I don't know if Cannon is the answer either. Obviously, he got better, but he's not Premier League.
No, he needs another year in the Championship.
Cannon scoring goals for Preston, that doesn't prove anything to me, because you know they're a local club that I've seen quite a few times. But I just believe that we're desperate. It's to find somewhere along the line 2 strikers, and if we just bring him in and give them, you know, a 2-year contract and say, come for 2 years, we'll get paid this much. You're young, you're athletic. Go to France. France is full of exceptional footballers.
Yeah,
they're bursting at the seams with exceptional footballers. And Lille especially. Lille is. I went to watch them with a mate a few years ago before COVID, and we both said, nearly every one of those players ended up in the Premier League. You know, and there's so many of them. There's goalkeepers out there in France as well. That if we have to sell Pickford, I don't think he's going anywhere. You know,
right? Yeah.
I just think he believes he's going to be Everton's captain. I think he wants to lead the club, and he's got a goal that he wants to beat Neville, doesn't he? And I think that's his ambition. So I think we're okay there. I don't think he'll go anywhere.
Fingers crossed.
Let Onana go if somebody wants him. But you see, Chelsea are bringing in midfielders now, so nobody's talking about Onana going to Chelsea anymore.
No. He's been late with Arsenal today, but you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
No, we'll have to see, Dex, won't we? We'll have to see. There's a lot of stuff needs to be done. Work needs to be done on the recruitment quickly. We need to sort the board stuff out, and hopefully we'll all come out the other side a little bit happier in a few weeks. But fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Right, Dex, you're going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it there, big man. You look after yourself.
I'll see you on the night, guys.
All right, can't wait.
Look after yourself, mate.
Cheers, Dex. See you later, mate.
See you soon, boss.
Ta-ra, Dex.
Ta-ra.
Wanderlust on the super chat says Everton linked with hopping midfielder Frogino, according to Footy Weekly. I will play on, obviously, Degsy's thing there. Degsy's mission. Blue Cali says Degsy in bed with a frog and a Dalek on the moon. Fair play. But that was tremendous. But it was good. No, it's all good. Right, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
Smash
if you haven't. Become a Premier member if you want to. Why not? Lots of you have. And enjoy it. Right, me and Cam are going to go now. Ned is desperate. He's got a date and he needs to be somewhere in 20 minutes. And he's literally panicking. And he keeps going. He can't wait to get on his date. So fair play to him. Fair play to him. Thanks for everybody who called in. Thanks to everybody who watched. Thanks to everybody who liked and subscribed. It helps the channel. And we really appreciate it. Big thanks to Cam for coming in as well. He'll be back soon. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Take it easy. Bye.
Au revoir.